Not moved then by the CBO estimates. I mean, it continues to project enormous cost savings to the economy and to the federal government as well.
Well, I think, you can project and you can do all these things. I'm just, doing from my experience right now, as to what's happening. And the reality is that individuals with their premiums, many of them are finding that the cost is going up significantly. Many young people are saying it is so expensive, or it's expensive enough that they're going to take a chance and just not get into the system, which they need so much, to help pull the cost down. And then we're also, in regard to business, we're rapidly becoming a nation of part-time employees, because businesses they're taking 3 part-time employees to take 2 full-time employees. Let's get that straight. 2 full-time employees, 3 part-timers to make that up. And that's not just something that I'm saying. I mean, that is simply happening all over the country. And so that's not a good situation also.
There is some discussion about a minimum wage bill. Where would you come down on that?
Well, we'll have to look at the numbers. I mean, there is talk of anywhere from a small increase to doubling it, and so $15 an hour, things like that. So I think the problem is when you start fiddling with that too much, you price out in an effort to help people many of those are going into the job market, for the first time. Many of them already have other jobs or supplementing, being in school and things. If you can horse around and price people out of the job market, and you actually wind up in a worse situation that you're at. Many of those people, those are entry-level jobs, where you start there and then you go on. But you have to be very careful of the unintended consequences of that, in the sense of just, there being less jobs. And then also in this very fragile economy, you have so many small businesses that are barely struggling to make it right now. And as you push up those wages, that will certainly impact them. Difficult to pass on. The other thing that you worry about are the people that are on fixed incomes, the retirees, the people on Social Security. That definitely is going to make, as wages go up, that's definitely going to increase the price of products. And they don't have any ability, to get extra income to cope.
There was a significant change. Any change in Senate rules is significant. You move a comma, then in Senate traditions, that's a pretty major change. But this one was certainly not an insignificant change, and that's a reworking of the filibuster rule. You and your Democratic colleague were opposed to that change. Does it not portend, though, Senator, whatever, the worst case scenario might be a diminution somewhat of the minority's ability to procrastinate? At least that's the argument from the advocates of that change.
Well, the real problem...
You haven't been silenced, they say. We're just trying to make this train run a little bit.
Right. I think the real problem with that whole deal was that in order to change the rule the way it was changed, you had to break the rules. It's very clear that you have to have a supermajority to actually make real changes. And so if you don't, then majority rules. You can just change the rules anytime you want to with 51 votes. So you need a supermajority. The way they did that was essentially,
it was a sidestep.
Well, they used parliamentary procedure.
Right. Parliamentary works for them.
Exactly. But again, it's very clear that you shouldn't do it that way. And so you broke the rules in order to change them. I think you could argue, some of these cabinet officials and things, you move through with 51 votes. But the court system is a little different, with the lifetime appointments. And so I think that, the system has worked. There's been very few, when you actually look at it, that have been filibustered successfully, through the years. And again, these are pretty significant changes. only about 2% of legislation that's passed actually gets through Congress, you know, and so it's not bad that it takes, especially in the Senate, where things are slowed down, because in the House, having been a House member and things, that's majority rules. I mean, you know, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts. You have the votes, and essentially, you know, you go forward. You keep everybody in line, you know, and you get things done, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. In the Senate, it's not that way, you know, and so it slows things down. And so I think, you know, that's why I opposed it. And I can't speak for Senator Pryor, but I think he probably had similar reasoning, you know, in the same vein.
Well, advocates of the change, and they all say they were reluctant. Apparently, they were reluctant advocates of this change. It wasn't a matter of slowing down judicial appointments. I mean, they'd come to a grinding halt. An enormous percentage, you'd concede, Senator, an enormous percentage of the judicial filibusters over the years have occurred in the 5 years of the Obama administration.
Well,
is that ideology at work?
No, but when you look, you know, actually the Democrats started doing this about 10 years ago under the Bush administration. And so until then, nobody had really, you know, it didn't really exist very much. One of the things that's precipitated this is the D.C. court, and that's a circuit court that's really not very busy. President Bush, you know, wanted to put additional people on there. Senator Schumer and several others said, no, you know, this is the least busy court in the country. You know, you actually need to be taking people off. Now, President Obama would like to fill all of those slots, in the sense this is where all of the executive action appeals will go through. This is where all of the Obamacare, you know, challenges will go through. So all of those kind of things. So what they'd like to do is get 3 more liberal judges on there to help, you know, balance that out. And so Republicans said, no, you know, we really don't need to do that. So that's really what's precipitated this.
If the tables were turned, would there be an objection? In other words, if there were a Republican in the White House seeking to fill 3 vacancies on the 8th Circuit, would this been a dispute? I mean, on the D.C. Circuit.
Yeah, I think very much so, because again, like I say, when President Bush, you know, tried to add or just, you know, get the vacancies eliminated, where you had a full contingent, the Democrats really objected and blocked from doing that. Now, as far as the rule change, you know, doing it the way it was done, Republicans actually toyed with that and then didn't do it. And again, my problem is, and I would hope, you know, that certainly I would step forward and say, no, you know, you don't break the rules, you know, when you change the rules. It's very clear that this, you know, probably could have been done on the first day of Congress, you know, if you're going to do these things. But the way it was done, the end doesn't justify the means. You know, just simply, you know, you can't operate like that.
Senator, we have less than a minute remaining. I want to ask about this. You are an advocate of, and now the U.S. Supreme Court has, in the New York case, has said, yeah, states can go ahead and impose these sales tax, internet sales tax regimens, protocols. Any chance of that?
We'll have to wait and see. You know, it's an issue that my concern is, if you start out, it's a matter of fairness. You know, if a business starts out, I think the average sales tax in Arkansas now is about 9%. So if you start out 9% behind, and you're, you know, down there on Main Street, you're down there on the square, you know, trying to make a living, and your competitor, you know, online, starts out where you're paying 9% more. That's more than some profits, you know, that you're actually selling. Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. Some markups, you know, that you're actually doing in the store. So it's a matter of fairness. And one of the big problems in the past has been the technology, you know, not having the ability, you know, how do you figure out all the states and all of that kind of stuff. That's been solved in the sense that most of the Walmarts, the this and that's, they already do this. And so the technology's there. But basically, it's a states' right issue, too. If the state of Arkansas wants to do that, they ought to have the ability to do it. If they don't, then they can opt out and not do it.
Senator, I have to end it there because we're out of time. Thank you for yours.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for your time as well. See you next time.